I'm here today with Rick Mcinnis, who works for the American Red Cross, and two of his volunteers, Julie Benyo and Marnie Kaufman. Rick, if we can, let's start with you. Can you tell me first how you got involved with the Red Cross and what you do for them?
Sure, thank you. First, let me just thank you, Tamarah, for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to talk about the American Red Cross. So I've been with the American Red Cross now for about 17 years. I started as a collection specialist, which is the people that go to the blood drives and actually, collect the blood of phlebotomists. Did that for a couple of years and then moved on to the Worcester Donations Center, where I worked as a collection specialist collecting just platelets. And most recently, I've started working with volunteer services, and my current position is a senior recruitment specialist. And that is basically, I recruit all the volunteers that we have in Massachusetts. There's myself and two other recruitment specialists in Massachusetts.
That sounds like an awfully big job. How do you go about recruiting volunteers?
So it is a huge job because the American Red Cross has 5 lines of service. We have biomed, which is blood services. We have disaster services. We have training services. We have, now I'm going to forget, service to the armed forces and international forces. Services. So all of those lines of services need volunteers. Obviously, with COVID, our whole strategy had to change. I used to go in person to visit schools, businesses. We did events and things like that. COVID changed all of that, and like we are virtual now, this is how it's been. And we've adapted pretty well.
Let's start now with Julie and Marnie. Julie, first, can you tell me how you got involved with the Red Cross, why you got involved with the Red Cross, and when?
Sure. Well, I've been donating blood through the American Red Cross since high school days, and I'm working on my 11th gallon now, and there's been some fits and starts. But so the Red Cross has been, fairly in my life for many, many years. And when I retired a few years ago, I had some extra time on my hands, and I went to one of my regular donations, and somehow I guess realized that, oh, there are volunteers that work here. I wonder if I could do that. And simply went online and checked out the volunteer opportunities and submitted my information, and I was accepted into the donor ambassador program. So I've been doing this now for about 3 years.
And what exactly do you do as a donor ambassador?
Well, that means I go to blood drives, and I am the first face that the potential donors see when they get there. And I help them through the registration process and get them in the queue so that the staff who are there don't have to spend their time doing that kind of thing. They can just focus on what they do, and what we all need is collecting blood. And so I do that to help at the front end, and at the back end, I make sure there are snacks and beverages available for the donors after their donation, and thank them for their donation and encourage them to sign up again in 56 days for their next one. The opportunities are such that the Red Cross, at least for donor ambassadors, require, not require, but ask for a minimum of 1 shift a month, which isn't a big draw. It's 5 hours is the length of the shift. And they have a great website. You simply go on and you look at all of the open shifts and the dates, and you see what's available and what's near to you, what times work for you. I like to do early morning to early afternoon, but if you like to do evenings or weekends, you can do it anytime you want. There are drives every day.
And Marnie, what about you?
Well, I joined more officially as a volunteer with the Red Cross about 1.5 years ago. My kids got a little bit older, and I realized that I could leave them at time. And I really thought initially I'd always wanted to be one of the people I see on TV responding to disasters, to hurricanes, to floods. And then once I joined and started doing training, and the way you join is, I just sent an email into the website, and immediately someone reached out to me, talked to me about different opportunities. When I wanted to be disaster action team member, they pair me with a mentor that helps me kind of figure out what is the training process. Most of the courses that you can take virtually. So I could take a lot of those at home, just kind of learning how do we say yes to clients, how do we help them, what are their needs during this disaster, and how can we respond to that. So then you become a trainee and you kind of go along with supervisors. Originally, it was always going in person to events. And then over time and COVID, it became a little bit more virtual. But I have been doing it really just locally for the past year and a half. And it surprised me because I thought I would be traveling, to the South Coast for hurricanes or out west for wildfires. Little did I know how many disasters occur in Massachusetts every single year. So there are over 700 events in a given year. We serve over 3,000 people who are displaced every year in Massachusetts. So the numbers are enormous. I do disaster responses typically to home fires. There are some flooding, storm damage. Sometimes we get some hurricane damage on the Cape, but typically it's home fires. And those occur within kind of Metro Boston, within 495. A fire occurs on average at one every single day at a minimum. And that can displace anywhere from one person to 200 people, depending on how large the response is and what the need is. I had no idea the Red Cross did this. So basically what we do is when a client is impacted, we are there immediately. And my number one job is to make sure that they are safe, warm, and dry that night. In addition to providing financial assistance and helping them find a hotel or place to stay, we also are able to get prescription medication, medical devices, glasses, contacts, those kinds of emergency items they need, we can get them for them right away. We can bring in mental health counselors to talk with them at the scene or after the fact. We assign a longer term caseworker to them and a recovery worker, and they're gonna work with them until that client has a permanent place to go. And whether that's to return back to their home or to find an entirely new place to live. We take care of their pets, we answer their questions. These people, it's the best volunteer thing I've ever done in my life. I really, hands down, I can't encourage everyone enough. And I've been amazed at the support of Red Cross members, team members. We are mostly all volunteers and we're all ages. A lot of college students in this area are doing this. You sign up for 6-hour shifts and the shifts go 24/7. So if you're on a 6-hour shift, you may not get a call at all. You may get a number of calls. It just kind of depends on that day. So you can go about your life. You can take your classes, you can go to your job if you have some flexibility, or you can sign up for shifts, 6 o'clock at night till midnight, whatever works for your schedule. It is so rewarding. These clients are so vulnerable and they're having the worst day of their lives. And to be able to come in with the vast resources that the Red Cross has and help them is just, it's incredibly humbling and fulfilling. And I encourage everyone to try it. Just try it, see if you like it, see if it works for you. And if that doesn't, maybe you want to volunteer in another part of the Red Cross, or maybe you don't like it at all, but it's definitely worth trying.
I'm assuming that you're always looking for new volunteers, correct?
We are always looking for volunteers, and it's not because volunteers come and they don't like it. It's just we have volunteers that are in college during the summer, then they go back to school, they leave. We have volunteers that have been volunteering for a lifetime and they get to an age where they can't do it anymore or in between jobs. So it's a never-ending cycle, but it's rewarding. I think it's amazing. I really feel good about recruiting a volunteer and placing them in an opportunity where they actually enjoy volunteering.
What can viewers do to help the American Red Cross?
Well, there are a lot of ways to help, but I am here looking for volunteers. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, then I would strongly encourage them to either contact me directly, and either that, they can go to the redcross.org website and sign up to volunteer.
Are you looking for volunteers in specific areas, or in general, do you just need volunteers?
So we need volunteers throughout the state of Massachusetts, but we have 4 counties, and you're going to see me drift off of my, to look at a sheet, but we have 4 counties that are a high priority need. It's Norfolk, Essex, Bristol, and Barnstable. So we're talking in Norfolk County right now. We have a high need for all volunteers, but specifically disaster action team members like Marnie and donor ambassadors like Julie. So those are the 2 that we are really looking for. Another one that I will mention briefly is CVLs, which are community volunteer leaders. These are volunteers that feel that they would work good with our executive director to kind of be an ambassador to the American Red Cross, and using their networks help with the mission of the Red Cross.
Julie, you said you've been donating blood since you were young.
Yes.
Why was that important for you to do that?
Well, it first started with a bloodmobile coming to my high school, and it was simply a matter of convenience and being able to get out of class for an hour. And then ever since then, it's always been convenient. There are so many Red Cross blood drives all over. So pretty much wherever I've lived, there's been one in my neighborhood at least every few months. And it was something easy for me to do. And it made me feel like I was really contributing to a desperate need. You read about statistics in the paper all the time of people who are injured in accidents or have illnesses and need life-saving blood. And so it was, if it doesn't hurt me to do it. And I really feel like I'm making a difference doing it. We occasionally do get first-time donors who are very nervous when they come to the drives. And if it's made known to me, and it frequently is, I get a sheet of who's coming in usually, and I can see maybe how many times they've donated. Then I try to say, it's easy. Look at all these people here. They walk out, they're happy. You get a free snack at the end. and afterwards, I always say, how did it go? Are you going to come back? And they invariably say, yes, I was scared for nothing.
As a volunteer, you must run the gamut of emotions. So you mentioned training, and do you get training to help you deal with your emotions and help you deal with what's going on?
Absolutely. I mean, as you say, it is a traumatic event for everyone involved, the first responders, for us, even most importantly for the clients. And in addition to kind of always being paired with someone, this isn't a one-off situation. We also have mental health counselors who are volunteers that reach out to all of us, particularly after a really complicated or a difficult response. Not every story has a happy ending, and it's very, very difficult sometimes to deal with. At the same time, I will definitely say that I've done a lot of volunteer work over my life, and this is one example where every single time you are truly helping a person during their most vulnerable moments. And I get more back from that than I could ever give or provide. And the entire kind of Red Cross community, we have monthly check-ins. We often have bi-weekly check-ins. When there is a big response, We will typically all meet up after that response, even either in person or virtually, to kind of discuss what went well, what we need to improve, to support each other, to see how everybody's managing with the whole response. So there's a lot of feedback. There's a lot of positive support from everyone. I mean, it's so warm and welcoming to all of us. And I just, as we've said here, there's so many ways to give to the Red Cross. You can give blood, you can give money, you can give your time. With Disaster Action Team, it traditionally had been solely an in-person kind of response. So you went to the scene of the disaster, you worked in a shelter. And that has changed with COVID. And I think it's changed for the better in some ways. And we're really looking at it more in a hybrid approach to dealing with disasters moving forward. So we have been cleared to go back on scene for all responses, but we've also learned that for large responses, it's often really nice to have a virtual team that is helping to do intake. For example, we had a 7-alarm fire in Boston a week and a half ago, where there were 155 firefighters on the scene. We had 50 people displaced, lots of animals. And the fact that I could be on site with 2 other Red Cross people, and we had 6 people behind the scenes who were calling the clients, getting all their information, setting up their cases remotely. And that could happen from anywhere in the state, in the comfort of your family room or living room or bedroom. It made the process so much faster for everyone at the scene. That will continue. So where it used to be a situation where if you want to do Disaster Action Team, you have to be there in person, that's not necessarily going to be the case anymore. And I think that just makes it easier for anyone to volunteer.
Can you tell us a little bit about the training and a little bit more of the responsibilities if they're going to be a blood donor volunteer versus someone who's working with the disaster relief?
Sure. First, let me say that I'm sure that everyone watching this has seen the Red Cross somewhere, whether it was a fire or when you turn on the TV and you see the floods. The American Red Cross is there to alleviate pain and suffering everywhere. So it doesn't matter if you want to volunteer in person, like Marnie and Julie. We have opportunities that are virtual where people can volunteer from the comfort of their home. There are so many volunteer opportunities. There are literally too many to talk about all of them. If you are interested in volunteering and you go to the website, redcross.org/volunteer, you'll find a volunteer application form. Once you fill that out, you are going to be contacted by our screening team. Now, our screening team are volunteers, as again, the Red Cross is 90% volunteer-led. You'll be contacted by our screening team. They will have a conversation, a one-on-one conversation with you to find out what your availability is, what your interests are, and they will place you in a volunteer opportunity. Then they will refer the department. For instance, if you were placed as a donor ambassador, they would refer your application to the biomed department, which is blood services. Someone from blood services would reach out to you and the process would go from there. So the training, it depends. I believe for donor ambassadors now, there's online training. And when you go to the blood drive, a lot of times you shadow a seasoned volunteer. With disaster services, there are more training involved, but it all depends.
Is there a need for blood donor ambassadors and the disaster ambassadors here in Walpole?
Absolutely. I can address the donor ambassadors. For instance, we have blood drives, and I'm just going to name off a few towns: in Canton, at the Village Shops, Franklin, at the Franklin Elks. The Dedham Blood Donation Center is open 7 days a week. We need volunteer help there. Foxborough, St. Mary's Church, Six String Grill and Stage. And In regards to disaster action team members, unfortunately, there are always the possibility of home fires and other disasters that happen throughout the community. So these two volunteer positions are volunteer positions that you can literally make a difference in your community. And when you go home, whether it's at a blood drive or at a home fire, you will definitely know that you made a difference in your community.
Julie briefly alluded to a time requirement. So can you tell us what the requirement is for both?
The time requirement, I'm going to let Marnie speak for it as far as disaster action team member, but for donor ambassadors, I mean, if it was a student that wanted to volunteer over the summer, that is fine. The time commitment for donor ambassadors is that we ask, not demand, but ask that a volunteer tries to volunteer for one shift, which is one blood drive per month. And that's just so that they can keep up to date with all of the changes that are going on. Now, again, with disaster action team members, I'm going to defer that to Marnie.
Right. Well, I think that, the key to this whole thing is we're volunteers. That means at any point in time, we can say, no, I'm not available to work. Something came up. There was an issue. The hope is that people can volunteer for a shift, a few times every month or many more times than that. And as I said, a shift is typically 6 hours. You could sign up for shifts 2 a week for 3 weeks and never get a call, or you could get called to fires during every single one of those shifts. It's dynamic, so depending on your week, you can completely change what day, time you want to volunteer. You can sign up last minute, you can cancel last minute. It's made to accommodate everyone's schedule, realizing that this is a small portion of their life and that there are a lot of other things going on. And we're just grateful for any time people can and are able to give. It's why there are over 700 volunteers in Massachusetts. We need a lot of people to fill all those spaces and gaps. And so we, definitely encourage you to try it.
This is for both Julie and Marnie. I'm sure a lot of your friends and family members have questioned you in the past, perhaps, as to why you donate so much of your time. I'm going to guess and say that you get a lot out of it, that it is rewarding for the two of you. But can you expand upon that? Why do you donate so much of your time?
Well, for me, like I said, I've been involved in donating blood for so many years, and I know the need for blood, and we're always hearing about the need for blood in the media. And it's true, accidents and illnesses happen every single day, and people need this. And whereas we might donate, for example, a whole unit of blood, that unit of blood can be divided into its component parts, platelets and plasma and red blood cells, and it can help 3 people, not just one. So I know that it really makes a difference to donate blood for whatever someone needs. And so if I'm able to help the staff concentrate on just that, even if 2 or 3 more people can donate because I'm freeing up their time by registering people and making sure that they're okay before they leave the drive, then I know we've helped that many more people directly. And at the end, if you donate blood too, you can follow your blood journey. Who was helped by your blood? You get told. It was maybe a little boy who had an accident, or you're told how many people you helped, and it really is heartwarming to know that your donation made that. But also from my end as a donor ambassador, heartwarming to know that I sort of helped grease the wheels for those kinds of things to happen.
Do you yourself still donate blood?
Absolutely. Not during the times I'm volunteering, because I stay out front and do my job. But yes, still as often as I can, I'm right there.
And Marnie, what about you? What do you tell people when they question you why, especially, being sometimes in very difficult scenarios, why you do what you do?
I think that I have learned more in the past year and a half about the greater Boston community. than I ever knew about it in the 27 years that I've lived here. To see the resources that towns have, to see the needs that clients have. I've been exposed to neighborhoods and populations and people that I never really got to interact with, and to see how connected we all are and how the same we all are during times of, you know, incredible horror and drama. It feeds on itself. It makes you want to do more. You see how you are really and truly helping someone, and you just want to do it again and again. You know, you are amazed by the stories and everyone who supports these clients, to whether it be their neighbors who they've never met, who suddenly are out on their front step seeing what they can do to help, whether it's local animal hospitals volunteering to board animals for free after a disaster. People are really, really good, and they really at heart want to help. And when these situations happen, to see communities come together, to see the schools reach out and do drives to try to get clothing for the children that were impacted. I mean, the entire town comes out for a lot of these events. We get the mayor coming to them from all the different towns. And, you know, we all just want to help. And the fact that I can come in there with all of these resources that donors have given me, and to give them kind of a roadmap of, I know you have no idea what to do and you shouldn't know what to do, you know, but we're here to hold your hand and to support you, not just tonight, but every day until you get back on your feet again. And I think it's addictive. You know, it's really, it's amazing to be able to provide that kind of support to people.
Rick, again, will you give our viewers more information as to how they can sign up to be either a blood donor ambassador or a disaster action response team member?
Absolutely. You have two choices. You can contact me directly, and my contact information will be on the screen, or you can go to redcross.org/volunteer and learn more about our opportunities there. When the unthinkable happens to someone you know in your family, people like Marnie are the people that are going to be there. If you need a blood transfusion, which there's no way of making blood, we have to get it from donors, people like Julie are going to be there to help get the process going and help us collect blood. So I just want to say that there are a lot of places to volunteer, and there are a lot of good places to volunteer. The American Red Cross is one of those places where you can literally make a difference in your community and feel good about it.
I'd just say I've responded to fires in Walpole in the past 2 months. I had a big fire in Stoughton this past week with 11 units and 35 people. I hope to meet some of you that are watching, and I'd rather meet you as a volunteer than as a client. Either way, you know, I'll be glad to see you, but I'd really love you by my side when we're going out and trying to help people, particularly in your own community.
I definitely want to thank Tamarah for inviting us here. I want to thank the viewers for your interest. Obviously, I want to thank the two wonderful volunteers that we have, Julie and Marnie, who make everything the Red Cross do possible. And in closing, I would like to leave a brief video that kind of shows what the American Red Cross has been up to lately. And I encourage you to watch it. Thank you.
Well, I know I want to say thank you to all of you, but especially to Marnie and Julie. It takes a very special person to volunteer time, but to do it as regularly and for as long as you both have for such an important cause is really a wonderful, wonderful thing. So thank you.